Oh! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for a second time this week. It's a little follow-up to what's been going on out at VMware Explore. And this afternoon, this morning, wherever, whenever you are, we're going to talk about what's been going on there. But for now, how about that fancy graphic? I just love that graphic. It's so cool. All right, everybody, I hope you're having a great day. My name is Jeff DeVerter, and I'm the Chief Technology, what is my title? Chief Technology Evangelist for us here at Rackspace. I just got back from VMware Explore way last night and did not sleep a whole lot. But I'm excited to be here this morning with you. We're going to talk about all the things that I'm aware of that happened while I was at the show. But some of you are already doing all the things that you're supposed to do, and that is introducing yourselves in the comments there down below. I am so delighted to see so many friends here. Tell me who you are. Tell me where you are. And of course, if you want to get some feedback directly to us, anybody here on the team, to Megan, to Daniel, to myself, my boss probably even gets it. So you can send an email to solve@rackspace.com, and we'll be delighted to get back with you. But in the meantime, let's see who is hanging out here in the chat room. Benjamin is here. Hey, we're glad to see you. Wish it was Benjamin DeVerter. That's my son. But he's in class. Second day of class. He is a junior in college, and he sent first day of school pictures yesterday. I should send you guys, put him up here next time. All right, we got Lisa from SoCal. Glad that you are here. Jacques is here. We have India here. We have, oh my gosh, it's moving fast. Delhi is here today. So many people. I have the ability to, I think I can actually say hi to people here. Good morning, all. All right, Fort Worth in the house, our Texas friends. Netherlands is here. India is here. It's a global audience, and I'm glad that everyone has joined today. We're going to get into, I mentioned this, we're going to talk about VMware Explore. It's still actually going on. I left early. I did last night because it's just some smaller stuff today. But I'm going to go over some of the main announcements that VMware has had. Now, there's been lots of partner announcements. You know, Deloitte's been out there, Lumen's been out there, all kinds of other folks. And But what we're going to talk about here today are the things that VMware specifically announced and why it's important. And I think it's important that we spend a little time, because we do spend a lot of time here on the show talking about hyperscaler stuff. And it is beyond important that we pay attention to what's still happening in the world of private cloud and private infrastructure, because it does still apply 100% in the enterprise compute segment, in the commercial compute segment. Tampa Bay in the house, glad that you are here. Hyderabad is here. Paul from Rackspace is here, that lovely country of Rackspace. So it's really important. Now, every quarter, you know this because we talk about it in our summits, we go out and do this. We do the analysis of what's happening out in the world. We go out and interview over 1,400 IT decision makers and ask them all sorts of questions, but they follow a theme. Themes could be cybersecurity. That's the one we're working on right now. We got about 70% of the results back here. Ooh, Manchester's here. Thanks. Welcome, Richard. Glad you've joined. But one of the things that we learn all the time, whether it is in those surveys, whether it's in talking to Forrester and Gartner, is that from an enterprise compute landscape, you know what's here to stay for the foreseeable future? Private cloud is here to stay. And and Megan has posted in our private chat the latest survey. Somebody, if you wouldn't mind, pop that on out in the chat for us so that the rest of the world can see it. But when we think about enterprise computing, hybrid is here to stay for the foreseeable future. Why, you might ask? Well, I'll tell you my observations. And trust me, I talk to customers every single day, what feels like all day long. But it's one of my favorite things to do, so that's okay. But here's the deal. Some of the stuff that's happening out there is that's running inside of your organizations are workloads that, well, one, they have no place being in the public cloud. Maybe they're running on infrastructure that the public cloud can provide. I think of AS400s or other mainframe or specific compute type things. Maybe it's connected to data sets that really don't make sense to move out. Maybe it would be cost ineffective to move it out. Maybe some of these applications are things that just have a couple of 3-4 years of life left, and they just need maybe a little hardware refresh and stick them in the corner. We could call it hospice, but that might sound bad or insensitive to our lovely applications. But the reality is because they don't have any place running in the public cloud. Now, all of that covers one key area or mindset when we think about hybrid computing. And that mindset is it's stuff that doesn't fit in public cloud for one reason or another. But especially as I'm coming fresh off of learning all the things that I learned out at VMware Explore, I already knew a lot of this, but there's even been some other great announcements, is that the enterprise compute landscape is ripe with incredible innovation that's happening in the VMware private cloud. And it is a first-class citizen when we think about our infrastructure running inside of our organizations. And that's some of the stuff that I want to unpack here today. So again, Sweta from Rackspace is here. So glad that you are here. Everyone, please continue to introduce yourselves. Megan and Daniel, thank you so much. My two fearless, sometimes fearful producers in the background. Who are posting and keeping you guys online here, but they posted up the link to the research. Daniel's already even, look at that, on cue, like he's been doing this for years, which he has. But I'd love for you guys to go check out that latest research. It doesn't cost anything. All this that we do here is part of the Solve program. Solve is all about providing amazing information for you guys so you can be better, well-equipped, well-informed technology individuals, whether you're deep in the tech, whether you're light on the tech, whether you're in sales working in a technical environment and just want to build your acumen. Sales folks are one of our larger communities that exist here, so we're so happy to have you all. I want to remind you that the audio from these live streams does show up in our podcast stream, but there's also some amazing content that shows up in the podcast stream that you won't find here. So the only way that you're going to get that, Dan, if you wouldn't mind bringing down that banner, I will show this banner to remind you to go out to wherever you find podcasts and download or subscribe to the Cloud Talk podcast. Now, you'll see in the graphic, which I have to update, it still shows, Stitcher. Stitcher's going away at the end of the month, so you might want to use a different one. I'm a big fan of Overcast, which isn't on the screen. I don't know why. All right, well, let's power on. Now, we're here to talk about all things VMware Explore. Happened this week out in Las Vegas. And wait for it, I think I have a graphic. There it is. And thousands of people were out there, and it was really quite informative. Now, like a lot of events, this one happened, well, it was over at the Venetian, which is always a great place to be. And so go check that out. And thanks, Daniel, for posting that down below. Tell us about your favorite conferences. Were you even at this one? And check it out. Here, I touched a little video as I walked down into the event center. You can see there were quite literally thousands upon thousands of people here. Now, it wasn't like when you go to AWS reInvent where you have literally tens of thousands of people. My guess is we had maybe close to 10,000 at this one, probably anywhere between 6,000 and 10,000. I wasn't running around with a clicker, so I do not know. But especially that first night in the expo hall, it was jam-packed, and this was a pretty big expo hall. It's always an interesting time. You're sort of shoulder to shoulder with a lot of different types of people. There's those I like to call the trick-or-treaters, just going from booth to booth to get whatever tech swag is there. But then there are others who are really digging into the different content that they're either going to be able to get from VMware was there, of course, with a very big booth presence, but lots of other folks as well. Like Rackspace, we were there, had a nice booth. Our events team really is pretty incredible. A little video of here, everybody being pretty excited. And we had the opportunity to get there and talk about all the things that Rackspace does in the private cloud. You know, that's where we started, is just in our own managed hosting offerings back in, can you believe it, 1998. We've been doing this for about 25 years. Now, if you're still at the conference and you want to go check these folks out, the booth opens, I think, from 10:30 to 1 today, booth 509. Coolest booth that there is. Go check it out. Really, it's coolest people. There's some great rockers out there this week. You can see a lot of them here. Now, Gert's here. I got to say hi to Gert. Gert, did you know there was a tropical storm named after you? I don't know if it's still around, but I thought of you this week when I was watching the weather. All right, everybody, if you don't know Gert was a racker, but, once a racker, always a racker. He is not in tech anymore, but if you've got money that needs managed, he's your man. All right, well, let's talk about some of the things that we learned this week and get into that content. And it really falls into a couple of key categories that I'll bring up here on the screen that we'll talk about today. And they fall in these areas. So first of all, there's two categories that deal with AI. First, generative AI, and then AI integrations into the VMware stack. There's a lot of talk about multi-cloud and multi-cloud applications. Tanzu fits into this. And then a ton of content that had to do with edge computing. Now, this is where we really start to unpack some of those areas where when you think about private cloudy stuff and you think, oh, that's the old world, AWS, Azure, Google, that's where it's at. This first-class citizens, folks, I'm going to come back and keep saying that I can't encourage you enough to think about the entirety of your enterprise compute landscape when we think about these types of clouds, because when we're considering the content that's going to run there, it's really important to really remember the fact that these workloads are that are running in your environment are not ones that you want to make kind of binary big decisions about, like we are going to run 100% in this location or 100% over in that location. Reason for that is every application, every business case, every user community base is in one way or another very different. Now, there are economies of scale that you should consider, but when you think about where things are going to run, you really need to think about those outcomes that you need to drive and how you're going to accomplish that. So let's talk about some of the AI things. It was Tuesday. I was watching the keynote. I love these that will do the keynote from and stream it because I was streaming it from the hotel room. It makes it much easier to take notes. But the CEO of VMware was up there, Raghuram was up, and he was talking about the private AI foundation that they're, of course, founded a big part of. And he was joined on stage by the CEO of NVIDIA. Now, NVIDIA, most of the world thinks of as, hey, I need to go get a great video card so I can go with a GPU or a graphical processing unit so I can play some great games and have great resolution and, blow my friends up, because what better friend is one that blows you up? Virtually, of course. But Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, was there, and they have found an incredible place in this world that not a lot of people realize. Now, they've been doing it for years and figuring some of this stuff out. They've been using AI to make this gaming experience even better, but the GPUs have been adopted by the AI environments just for additional processing when we're training models and doing stuff like that. Now, hyperscaler clouds have these capabilities. They have GPUs on demand that you can use there, but there's a lot of concern in the world, and rightly so, that maybe not every bit of data makes sense to put in the public cloud, especially when we're talking about AI. If you've got a private data set, it sounds sort of ethereal. Let's say your financial data, your customer data, your contract data. This is not something I would, through an API, just willy-nilly throw out into a ChatGPT experience and enjoy getting a great interactive response on my data, because the rest of the world is going to have access to that data. So really, a lot of their announcements this week had to do with being able to have private clouds, private AI clouds, to do training of large language models so that you can have the experience of what you come to know and love about a ChatGPT or a Bard or something along these lines, or Bing, and being able to then use that against your private data. And this is a huge deal. And it actually gets into that other piece of AI that I mentioned, that's AI in integrations and AI interfaces, so that now, when it's time to build up a private cloud to do maybe some large language model training, you can actually speak it into existence. Crazy stuff, the kind of thing you find in the beginnings of books of religions, and God spoke into existence. You can speak a private cloud now into existence. It's crazy, and describe what you want it to do, and it comes to life, which is really pretty amazing stuff. The power that exists here. So really, I tell you all of this to get you to go read some more about the capabilities that exist there, but then also to encourage your organizations to find ways to use AI in a responsible way. It's a big thing we're pretty fired up about here at Rackspace, as we enable customers in private implementation so that you can be smarter with your data. Pretty cool stuff. All right, so that takes care of a lot of the AI announcements that happened. But there was a whole lot of other things that got into the technical weeds, like the SAN VMAX. There's a new vSAN product that provides petabyte scale disaggregated storage. So if you're a storage engineer, you know that it's a pretty big deal to have petabyte scale for the disaggregated stuff. And that's a capability we have had that you kind of put together yourself, but now exists as a service or capability, a part of vSAN. vSphere Lifecycle Management Service for ESXi is now there. Now there's the ability, I talked about this before, to create those virtual private clouds. We used to talk about virtual private networking. We talk about virtual private servers. Now we're talking about virtual private clouds. And again, using AI to speak those into existence through their APIs. There's also the option to perform automated concurrent ransomware remediation against VMs. So they're building into the foundation of VMware and that environment the ability to have protection for ransomware. Of course, it's a pretty big deal. A lot of companies getting into a lot of trouble because the bad guys are just getting badder. Well, technology is fighting back, and specifically here, we now have it at a foundational level, the ability to remediate ransomware. Still a lot of configuration and things you have to think through to make that happen. Now let's talk containers and applications a little bit. Tanzu, which is their container management orchestration capability. Their application engine is designed to streamline requests from developers now, so that we're able to do that in an orchestrated, streamlined way. Pretty incredible stuff. There's also improvements to apps on demand and improvements to the Edge Cloud Orchestrator, because that is a really huge use case when we think about private cloud. It's not always just about this really big amorphous type of an environment that's out there running, but it's a way to extend either your private cloud or even your public cloud to the point where compute and storage is required. I think manufacturing. I think about automated cars. There are a ton of different examples. Surgery, automated surgery. I don't want any latency going back to the cloud when somebody's maybe doing a little eye surgery on me, which maybe I need to do it one of these days. But these are just some of the announcements that happened out at VMware Explore. It really was a pretty impressive conference. You got to hand it to VMware, especially since they had that Hurricane Hillary just rolled right past to the west of them the night before on Sunday night. Luckily, I flew in on Monday morning. So I haven't seen a lot of responses of people who are still, well, first of all, let's ask the question, what are your favorite conferences? I'm guessing that if you're watching this right now, you didn't go to the conference. So what conferences have you been to this year? Let's talk conferences for a second. We have just a few more minutes that I wanted to chat with you. And then also talk about what's happening next week. Now, second, how many of you are running VMware-based private cloud or even just virtualization that's running inside of your organization? Because, again, a lot of that in the past has been, you've been running workloads there just because you haven't had time to move it to the cloud yet. But I want to challenge and encourage you that the private cloud is, again, a first-class citizen of where your workloads can be running and be in an environment that can be as innovative as public cloud. Don't believe me? Challenge me. Let's have that conversation. But as somebody who's been in IT for a really long time, note the gray hair, long story if something happened at the event. But feel free to challenge me on that, because I want to go back to where we started our conversation, and that really was that when thinking about the evolution of your enterprise compute environment, think of it as looking for that best case for where things should run. Now, you also don't want to run it in 20 or 30 different locations. Hi, Manoj, glad you're here. But you do want to narrow those buckets down and have multiple locations for that data and for those applications. You should really think about those things as separate assets and where they can run. Again, as I've just coming fresh off VMware Explore, you are going to want to consider that as a place for really what's going to be a pretty significant amount of workloads. At Rackspace, we help a lot of companies move out to the public cloud, and people were pretty fired up and pumped up about that as we exited the teens, late in teens, and exited the teens. Then COVID comes along. And everybody just snow shovels their data out into the cloud so that as people run home to work from home and stay safe, that they still have access to everything that they need so that they can do their job. Well, here we are in 2023. It's back half of 2023 at that. And now we're trying to think through what we're seeing is organizations who went into the public cloud with the best of intentions of migrating and evolving their enterprise workload estate after it moved out into their favorite cloud, but in reality, they haven't transformed it, and consequently, it tends to be more expensive. Now, that is, also when if you watched our Tuesday show, you know that, was it Tuesday or was it Wednesday? It was Tuesday. It's been a long week. I had Google on. Google's a great place to run your VMware workloads without having to necessarily transform them, and then you're smack dab in the middle of Alphabet and get to use all the goodness that's there. All right, let's see what Alexander has to say before we start to wrap this thing up. Always had public and private with VMware. Good. Yep. Now Racker. Awesome. And best conferences are the ones you can actually go to. That is so true. There's nothing like a conference experience. Who's planning to go to reInvent? I'll be there. Try and get Megan to go because we need more social help. But that's going to be about what I wanted to chat with you guys about today. Encourage you to consider private cloud as a first-class citizen of the evolutionary roadmap for your enterprise estate. Doesn't mean it all has to go there. Doesn't mean it all goes to public cloud. But make thoughtful decisions that you can change on a moment's notice. Not a moment's notice, but you know what I mean. So that those workloads are running in a cost-effective location, an environment that is not only competent, but allows you to innovate in those workloads as well. All right, folks, as I mentioned before, this is all part of the Solve program here at Rackspace. You want to learn more and up your education game, learn a few things. I'd encourage you every Monday morning, maybe at 8:30 a.m., grab your cup of coffee, head over to Solve, see what's new this week at Solve, because we are posting free content there every single week. And of course, there's these live streams that show up every week, and there are the podcasts that show up every week. If you've missed this one, then I'm not talking to you because you're not watching. But the audio for this will show up later in the day today once we get it all edited up and sent out. But head over to rackspace.com/solve and check that out. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the Cloud Talk podcast. Now, next week, speaking of conferences, it's time to go to Google Next. That's right, off to Google. So come Monday morning, I am flying out to San Francisco. We'll be at the Moscone Center. There are a bajillion people who have subscribed for that. We are going to be at booth 217 at Google Next. I hope you'll come by. I'll be spending a lot of time filming a lot of Googlers in a studio that we are preparing and building out on Monday afternoon and Tuesday morning, so we'll be able to do that. So I will be live from San Francisco this week. And but if you're there, send me a note. You're watching me on LinkedIn. Just find me on LinkedIn. Tell me you're going to be there. I'd love to meet up. Maybe we can have a little impromptu, brewed beverage event, be it morning with coffee or afternoon with not coffee. All right, so, and let's just go ahead and just turn that off for now. But I would love for you guys to meet us up out there. Now, Daniel, we showed earlier that graphic for our latest survey. That was the one on compute and such that we did and came out just a few 6 weeks or so ago. But if you guys want to go check that out, it's free, like everything else. Go check that out. There are some incredible findings in there, and we're going to be building on those findings in our security research that is happening literally right now. We have Alexander, no coffee. Well, yeah, okay, voting for the afternoon. I love that one. So go check that content out, and I will see you guys next week. It's going to be bright and early because I'll be Pacific time, but you're going to get a lot of Jeff next week. We'll be online a whole lot, so I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. And until then, folks, my name is Jeff DeVerter. I'm the Chief Technology Evangelist here at Rackspace, and I really can't wait to see you next week.